Welcome to the Hobby Jogger podcast, where elite athletes and ham and eggers lace up their stories. We explore the common ground that running creates, from the world-class runner to the hobbyist hitting the pavement, trail, or treadmill. Expect a blend of inspiration, laughter, and the shared joy that makes every step count. Join us on this journey where every run is a story worth sharing. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Hobby Jogger. I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Rob Myers. Rob, I forgot what episode number this is, so I didn't mention it. Do you know?
Is it 44?
We're going with 44.
Maybe.
Going with 44. You recovered from canyons.
Yes, I have recovered.
Nice. Long trip. Yeah, happy to be back. It was a great trip, and that leads us right into this guest that we're going to have on. And the reason I'm having this particular guest on the show, a friend of mine, is because I feel that the strength training I did do leading up to canyons played a very big part into, one, how I did the performance, two, how I felt, and three, how quickly I recovered from it, which was record time for me. He's a strength coach, conditioning coach, and much more that we're going to get into, but I just wanted to kind of explain why we're having I guess not necessarily running guest on a running podcast, but a strength coach, because I would like to emphasize how much time I put into that. Let's get to the guest. It is my friend, Mr. Michael Meeker, the proprietor of Big Tree Fitness here in Akron. Mike, how are you?
Good, Casey. Very good. Thanks for having me on, man. Much appreciated.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for joining us. We certainly appreciate your time, and I know you're busy down at the gym, so anytime you can make time for me, so I'm obliged.
Always make time for you, dude.
Yeah, of course. I know. But, you are busy down there. Got an evening off, I guess, kind of off, or no, you had the last class and then.
Yeah, last class finished up right around 6:30, 6:45, and just came home and set up in my backyard and sitting down, ready to have a good conversation. It's beautiful outside. Hear the birds all around me and stuff. So I'm kind of in my element, in the place I like to be at.
Yep, it is one of my favorite places down there as well. You live right next to Sand Run Metro Park, beautiful area.
I just walk 30 seconds up my street, and I have all of Sand Run Park, and I can connect into the national park in a matter of like a 45-minute walk, and it's just it's pretty cool down here. I moved down here on purpose 25 years ago.
Nice. Yeah, it was a good choice. Definitely the best running trails, for kind of what I do is down there in Sand Run. So I'm pretty fortunate that it's a 3-minute drive down the hill for me, or just run down there.
Yeah, or just run down the hill.
So you are the owner. Oh, you're the only owner, unless your, significant other owns it with you, but of Big Tree Fitness, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Sole proprietor of Big Tree Fitness.
And how did you start that back when you started it?
That's so I was working for a landscape company I worked for them for 25 years. But at one point in time, I just started getting really burned out on it. But what I loved about in my company that I worked for is I had a lot of autonomy. And so I got to train and coach a lot of people. And my mantra was always to try to pull from within. And I enjoyed that piece of my job the most. Everything else I could have left behind for a while. But when I actually started going into a gym, because I actually started my real journey out on the trails, on trail running and everything, and eventually found myself in the gym, and I ended up hooking up with an actual trainer. The connection between working out in a gym and that feeling that I got from doing that, and how great it felt, and then the idea of having what I love doing in my job, which was coaching and training and educating people to get them to move up higher up, seemed like a perfect opportunity. And so back in 2015, I went back to school online through ISSA, International Sports and Science Association, and got my personal training certificate. And that same year, I started my first garage gym that was pretty much an underground thing. Just a handful of people I was training. It was all free. And I ran through that all the way through 2016 when I decided it was time to do something different. And so that's when Big Tree Fitness became actual official. And then I got my first small space right around in my neighborhood. I didn't want to leave the valley. The valley had offered me so much that I wanted to give something back. So I always wanted to do something like that. And so I started my first gym down there in the valley in the late fall of 2016. She's gone through many iterations of it through dealing with COVID, moving the gym to a bigger spot, and then having COVID come up and get you about a year and a half later, and then removing it again, and then running into a flood last year, and then having to rebuild it again. It's something that's very deep inside of me that I absolutely love doing. I love the community we have, and I love getting to do what I get to do every single day. It's awesome.
Yeah, I remember your first gym. Rob, what I would say it reminded me most of was like an old wrestling gym, like back in middle school.
It was small. Yeah, it was small. I think the total square footage, and this included a little office space and a bathroom. I think the total square footage was just under 900 square foot, and we had a total of maybe 600 square foot working space, which was kind of comical because at one point in time we had 24 rugby members laying on the ground doing green Sally, and the way you guys had to position yourself on the floor was just insane. It's one of my all-time favorite videos I've ever made.
Yeah, I remember that video. Yeah, the song probably most famous from being in Gone in 60 Seconds. Was
Yeah.
it Green Sally?
Yeah, or porcelain. Everybody calls it green Sally because green Sally up, green Sally down. And when you're on the down position, you're actually folded into that V up and everything. And so it's a 3 minutes and 48 seconds of torture. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love the small gyms because when you walk in right away, you know there's work being done there, right? You can
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
smell it in the air. You can see it on the mats. Like I know some of my favorite gyms over the years, just super tiny, not the best equipment, but everybody's smiling, everybody's having a good time, and you're just working hard. And then you grow from there. You know, it's the best.
Yep, that's exactly how it happened. And from there, just had this really cool community. And having the rugby team initially join into what I was doing and stuff, that was a big, huge help for me. And it kind of gave me the foundation of what I wanted to be doing in the sense of the community I wanted to have. It was extremely diverse and just opened up all sorts of different ways of thinking, different ways of looking at how you can do fitness, different ways you can look at, especially on the rugby team, of who needs what, in the sense of the bigger guys versus the smaller, the faster people and stuff. So it was a great education piece for me as well. It's where I cut my teeth, so to speak, for a little while.
I mean, some of the larger gyms just feel so sterile to me, you know, at the end of the day.
They are.
I don't want to talk smack. It's nice when you're traveling and the experience is the same. I get it, but it just seems like such a sterile environment. Like there's no camaraderie. Like you don't feel that energy when you walk in. You know?
Yeah, I go up to a couple times a week at least. I go up to a Sporta or LA Fitness here to go swim, and it's that very sterile kind of environment. It's a great thing to have to utilize, but it does not have that feel. It doesn't have that community feel to it. It doesn't have that. You're going in there, and whatever's written on the board, you're going to go, "Oh shit!" you know?
Love it.
Yeah, that's what you're going to get when you come into Big Tree.
Which is what I look for. It's average Joe's gym versus Globo gym is what it is.
That's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, and it's you're right. It's very sterile, Rob. That's the word I've been trying to come up with. I got to write that down. Sterile, and not in a good way. Not that it's clean, just sterile of kind of character and things like that. But Mike, you're also no stranger to endurance events, which is what we focus on here at the Hobby Jogger.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
You've done some crazy shit out here in the CVNP.
yeah. I don't know what happened for me. I got involved in Spartan races when I started in my old gym, the original first gym. I got involved in a Spartan race, and I had done like a couple of the some of the other smaller kind of obstacle course races before, but when I went and did Spartan, I was like, oh, this is something completely and totally different. This is super cool. So I got a little bit more and more involved, and each year I would get people involved with it. And eventually I started working my way up and got into the doing the Beast, which was the half marathon version of it. And it's got 28 some odd obstacles that you have to work through. And you're in Mother Nature, you're in the woods, you're in whatever environment they're putting in it. Ski resort sometime, in a rock quarry, where this next one's coming up that we're doing here, not this weekend, but next weekend. So I got more and more involved with those things. And then when COVID hit, it shut everything down. And the weird story about that, when COVID hit, I was actually in New York at Greek Peak Ski Resort, way in like what would be central northern New York area, doing a Spartan race. It was the only winter Spartan race I ever did. And I was like not that far away from like the epicenter outbreak that was in New York. And I come home a week later and the whole entire everything shuts down. It was an extremely weird experience. But when COVID happened and everybody kind of went down into the rabbit holes and stuff, so to speak, I did the polar opposite. I was like, okay, this is going to suck business wise, but what can I do to help keep the business going? So what I did is I created packages for everybody. So whatever was not tied down in the gym, I made these packages, some for my advanced lifters, medium, middle people that, didn't have, they had good experience, but not what they needed for lifting on their own, so to speak, in beginners as well. And so I would come in every day, do a video, send it out to each and every group of people that had, so they could keep their workouts going. And in return, they kept the business afloat. And so that just like really inspired me to just keep on doing more and more. And so I started off doing a 5K every day for 21 days in a row. I started taking my kids on a hike with their schoolmates during Zoom meetings, just like what we're doing, and before their classroom started. And we would take the kids out on a 45-minute hike in the woods and everything. And that just kept on pushing me further and further. And so the 21 days ended up turning into what was going to be just 100 days of a workout, which ended up turning into 365 days in a row of a workout. And in between there, I ended up doing the David Goggins 4x4x48 challenge and raising a bunch of money for Isabella's Closet. About 2 months later, I did my first ever ultra, and it was a Spartan ultra. So it was 32.6 miles and 66 obstacles. Ended up later on that year doing my first ever 100-mile towpath ride. Just going off and doing these things that were endurance things, but not just endurance things, but things to make you think very differently and very deeply about what you're trying to accomplish in life and how you're trying to maybe change things. And 2020 and everything was a perfect opportunity for you to do that if you chose to do it. And so that's how I got involved in endurance things. And I just kept on doing things like that up until recently. We did our winter challenge for 2025, and that was took place on February 28th this year. We took off at 6 o'clock at night. It was 56, 57 degrees outside and absolutely beautiful. We didn't even have to have our headlamps on throughout the first part of the hike, which went until midnight. We just wore base layers and stuff. And then roughly around 2 o'clock in the morning, Mother Nature decided to say, okay, here I am, let's go play. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, by that point in time, we were in a full blown snowstorm, whiteout conditions, wind all over the place, temperatures getting colder and colder and colder. And by the time we were done at 4 o'clock Saturday evening, we had done 44 miles and 18 moving hours and 4,000 foot elevation. And the wind chill factor was 9 degrees above zero. But it was a blast. I had an absolute blast doing it. And it's just, I love doing these things because they allow you to prove to yourself what you're capable of doing. And they open up things for you in different ways.
Casey, you said this guy was a beast, but you didn't say he was a beast. Come on.
Rob, I'm trying to talk him in. The last couple of times I've seen him into doing like 100-mile mountain race because he would kill it. And I'm going to see if I can get him to come down to Grindstone with us and do the Grindstone 100. So That's my goal. Because a lot of that, Mike, it's just hiking.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I'm aware.
Yeah. So I would like to see it. You would crush it. So, but that brings us to our next point, Mike, is the training that goes into all this, because now it's kind of, and Rob, you'll probably agree, you've heard people talk about it, like they're starting to realize in running, well, specifically trail running, how important cross training is,
Hmm.
like how important strength training is. And maybe you're doing yourself a little bit of a service if you just go out and run super high volume of running without doing strength training.
You're doing yourself a huge disservice if you're just going out and doing volumes of running without doing strength training. You have to understand, if you want to be good at anything, the whole entire body is connected together. Everything's connected together. If you want to run and have great posture and running and great posture and ability to move on trails, you should have a really strong upper body. A really strong upper body. You should have a strong back, strong shoulders. You should also have strong legs to be able to support the muscle. You should have strong muscles to be able to support what you are trying to do. If you are just doing one thing and doing it over and over and over again, yeah, you can run, but are you doing it to the best of your ability? And the answer to that is simply no, if you're not doing strength training at all. Resistance training, it makes everything better. Now, that also depends upon what kind of resistance training you're looking at. If you're a runner, are you going to go out and try to do powerlifting kind of strength training where you're going to go for maximal strength training? And the answer to that is no, you wouldn't want to do that. Are you going to go and do a bunch of hypertrophy training where you're going to do lots and lots and lots of reps and everything? No, you're not going to do that either. That's because you're already doing lots and lots and lots of reps when you're doing your running. But are you going to do rep schemes where you're building the strength in the muscle? Yes, you're building some muscle onto the body, but more importantly, you're putting strength into that muscle that you're building. And that's going to be able to support everything you're doing 1,000 times better.
And I think that mindset is fairly new, at least that change. Because for the longest time, even outside of running, it was always, train the sport you're doing
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it is. Like that should be the bulk of your training.
Yeah.
And I think people overlooked strength training. And there's a lot of injuries because of it. So it's good to see that hearts and minds are changing.
Yeah, to this day, we still deal with that. You deal a lot with that with the kids growing up these days. They're still specialized. I think, like, for me personally, if I were to look at things, I would love to see kids get involved with like at least 3. If they're into sports, if you're a kid that's into sports, and say you're really good at baseball, great, you're really good at baseball. Play baseball, but then when you're not playing baseball, go out for the swim team. Swim in the off season. Go out and do something else. Maybe do something fun, just like go bowling or something, but do something that makes your body move in different places so your body has better awareness of what it's doing instead of just doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, and you never learn anything out of it. You're stuck inside this box. Let the body expand. The body learn different movements. Let the body learn where it can be working, what it can work with, and what it's capable of doing, so that when you go back into that box, you're a whole hell of a lot better than when you were being just stuck in the box.
Yeah, I'm convinced that I don't want to say bad parenting, but parents that fixate their kids on just one sport and specialize have ruined some generational talent that would have been, like I said, like a generational talent at their sport, but their
Yeah.
parents just burned them out so much, so quick from just specializing in one sport.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I think it's even more of a case when you don't give them any kind of a break, when they don't have any kind of real off season to just relax, to recover, and to just take a breath or two. When you're constantly going on from one traveling team, maybe you're off for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then you're on another traveling team, and maybe you're off for 2 or 3, you're on another traveling team. That's not enough time for a young kid to recuperate and to like reconnect with friends and reconnect with anything else that's going on in life besides what they're doing in the sense of baseball. Now, when you get a little bit older and you're like, I don't know, you're a high school kid and you're like, hey, this is the only thing I'm going to concentrate on this. I'm not going to go to college, but I want to be the best I can be at this sport. Then yeah, go ahead and specialize at that point in time for maybe your freshman to your senior year and be as good as you can at whatever sport that is you're going to be at. But once you're done with that, then break off and start doing all sorts of different things again. But leading up to that, still have them do all sorts of different things.
Yeah. And even as adults with running, it's important, I think, to do something different when you're not training for a race. You know, a gym like yours, I've never been sure how to answer this, Mike. How would you classify your gym? Like what kind, because I never want to say it's CrossFit because it's not CrossFit. That's like its
No, it's not.
brand. It's not. I always say I call it functional strength. We talked about that a little bit on the phone, but that's what I look at it as. It's making you stronger for day-to-day activities all around. Health and wellness is what I consider it to be. But what do you consider your gym to be?
I consider it that's kind of morphed over the years. But if you were to ask, like for right now, I consider my training is like longevity training. You want to live a long, healthy life where you don't have to worry about somebody wiping your ass at 75 years old. Okay. That's the kind of training that's why I look at the training. So I take a combination of traditional strength training. When I mean traditional strength training, I'm saying your bench press, your squat, and your deadlift, and an overhead press. And then wrapped around that are elements of CrossFit, elements of strongman, elements of the idea of um, moving a fair amount of weight quickly with not a lot of rest, but you're not going. It's one of these. So, say for instance, you're on a day where you're doing a squat day. You're going to squat, but then you're going to do maybe 3 to 5 reps because we're working on strength, maybe 6 at the most, but 3 to 5 reps you're going to do your squat. And then you're going to do a series of other pieces that help hit the whole entire body, their accessory movements. And then you're going to go back up to that squat and you're going to work through that. And you're maybe run that whole entire gamut 5 times. So you're taking traditional things, you're taking the element, I guess, or the idea of a little bit of CrossFit where you're having the volume and a little bit of speed, but at the same time, you're using it in a fashion that you're not looking for maximal strength or anything. You're using it in a fashion to make yourself strong, create endurance so that you can move through everything that you're doing through life easier, faster, fuller range of motion, things along those lines. So I guess that's a way of describing it. I've always had a hard time putting words to that as well, but that's pretty much what it comes down to. So you're cross training over everything. You're taking your main lifts, but you're adding so many different other pieces to those lifts that allow you to train the whole entire body at the same time, still while you're still hitting the main lift.
Yeah, that makes sense. Having been through workouts, that's a good way to describe it.
So do you ever get people to come in that, maybe they're recovering from a very specific injury or it's just something over time is just worn down? And they're like, Mike, I want to get back to some sense of normalcy. Do you recommend certain workouts, or is it just kind of the same for everyone and build you up?
Everybody who comes in everybody's completely and totally different. You have to find out where everybody's at. Now, can you take a program with a series of different, exercises and still give it to that person to do? Yeah, you can. But what you need to do though before that is like, can this person squat this way? No, he can't squat this way, or she cannot squat this way. Can this person really squat really well at all? No, they can't. They're going to need an assistant kind of squat. So you're going to change up the whole entire squat so that they can start to learn to get to the depth that they need to be at. So you're going to change it to a completely nothing but a body weight squat, but you're still running that whole entire program. Is that person able to do a full-on push-up on the ground? Most people who come into the gym, no, they're not. They can't do them on the ground. But if we put a bar on the rack and we just change the angle but keep the body posture the same, and we change the angle and take a little bit of gravity away, can that person do the push-up then? Yeah, they can do the push-up then. So we work our way from where they're actually at till we get them to the point where they're doing the things that we would normally do in a workout at that point in time. Yeah, you have to. You can't meet people. You can't expect people to come into a gym. That's where most people fail, is they come into a gym and they're like expected to do something that they're just not capable of doing. They might be able to do it for 1 or 2 workouts, but then their body's going to feel like crap and they're going to get wrecked. Then they're going to quit. So why do you want to do that to them?
Very true.
And we see that a lot in running, Rob, where, people immediately, I want to run 100 miles. I'm going to sign up for this 100-miler. It's like, you haven't even run the local 5K yet. Maybe we should start there and work our way up to, through the distances to build your body up, build your mind up is probably a bigger thing.
Unless you're Goggins, I think you could pull it off. But even then, if you read his first book, he regretted it.
And he was, I'm sure, still destroyed afterwards.
Which race was that? I think it was the Hurt 100, the one in Hawaii that he ran and didn't train for it, something like that. I'll have to go back and reread the book, but it was pretty interesting.
That's such an outlier, and
yeah, it is.
I know, Mike, at your gym, you do get a lot of people, I'm sure, first time in a gym, and there's an intimidation factor.
Big time intimidation factor. And it's not even just intimidation factor of like they're afraid that they're going into a gym and it's an environment that they're that they've never been in or they're uncertain of. There's people that come into the gym that actually do, or like I have a guy that started with me a number of years ago. He was a biker, mountain biker and a gravel rider, and did not really want to touch any weights. He was afraid that if he started lifting or anything, his already sore body was going to be just destroyed and he wasn't going to be able to, bike the way he wanted to bike, and he needed to stay at this certain thing. So I allowed it to happen. I kept him right there and everything, but now he's bench pressing 195. He's pulling 300 some odd pounds. It took a few years to get him to that point, but now he's biking like a madman. He's 4 years older, but he's doing better now because he's got this strength that's backing him up before that he didn't have.
Hey folks, if you're loving the stories, tips, and laughs we're dishing out, make sure you don't miss an episode. Hit that subscribe button so you're the first to know when a new episode drops. And hey, if you've got a second, why not leave us a review? Your feedback helps us improve and keeps this running community growing. Lace up, hit subscribe, and let's get back into the show. When you focus on strength training, the recovery that you get after a big event, like after he does a big ride, is night and day from before strength training. Like this winter, I had just a real simple one because I can get like a half hour a day for strength training. So I can just pop in, I could do my squats. I have a kettlebell here. I could do kettlebell swings. And what else? Oh, lunges, weighted lunges. Those are like the 3 big things that I did. And night and day difference from before how I recovered after like a 50K to this version of the 50K. So I'm sure the guy at the gym there who's gravel riding and beating himself up, now he's just 2 days later, he's good after a 50-mile ride or whatever.
Correct. Yeah. He has, any of the guys that I have a couple guys that are like that are bikers, and they'll attest to the fact that their recovery time is, 1,000 times better. Like I can go to the, when I go to look at how my recovery time was when I did my Goggins, my Spartan Ultra versus what I did just recently with my 44-mile ruck hike. I trained for this thing so much better, so much, I used a lot more knowledge, a lot more wisdom to train for this 44-mile ruck hike than I ever could have thought of training for everything else. I was destroyed when I got done with those 2 events, like destroyed. It took me, I probably did body weight workouts for about 3 months before I actually started picking up a weight again. That's how kind of screwed up I got, because I didn't understand the real training that needed to be done to be able to do one of those things, even though I was strong. This time I did a whole entire different way. I did my strength training piece, but one of the big things I added in when you talk about cross training is I swim twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. Swimming probably is the number one thing that I've added to my workout, probably the best thing I've ever added to my workout program, hands down. Swimming translates over to absolutely everything, because what you gain in your VO2 max from swimming is off the charts. It's killer. And what you can gain through endurance from swimming transfers out so far to so many different things. I highly recommend swimming over everything, but the swimming was a big, huge piece because it helped my endurance, it helped my VO2 max out. I did a much better job of the hiking piece, but the whole entire training piece before that, when I was working back then in 2021, it was like still chasing numbers kind of attitude towards things. This time was very different because I really changed in the way I look at how we train. I have a friend of mine, Diesel, and we created this whole entire new workout program. It's an 8-week long program, runs along that line of we're going to run with 5 reps of 5s, reps of 3s, maybe reps of 6s, but we're going to do rounds of like 6 rounds. We're going to do 5 rounds of things, but we're going to have maybe 3 or 4 exercises, 5 exercises mixed in with that, and doing a lot more EMOMs and things along those lines. Those type of every minute on the minute. So if you do an EMOM, say for instance, for right now, we're getting ready to do a Spartan race, and we're doing it a bit differently. We're going to be ruck hiking it. So a lot of us are going to be trying to do a lot of the obstacles with the backpacks on. And so we've been doing tons and tons and tons of pull-ups, tons of hangs at the gym. And so an EMOM would say 6, 7, 8, 9 pull-ups every minute on the minute for 8 to 10 minutes. Or you could do something where you're one of the things we did today, I like sprinting a lot at the gym. So it was 8 push-ups and then basically about a 20, 25 yard sprint, and then jog back and then rest whatever time and repeat it for 10 rounds, stuff like that. Those are EMOMs. And you can put all sorts of different exercises in the EMOM, just depends upon what you're trying to accomplish.
Gotcha. Because you can remember, most of our listeners aren't gym. They're not going to know the.
Yeah, I got it.
In fact, every single one of them is running specialized. So yeah, just made sure I knew what it was to make sure I could refresh myself on that, because it's been a while.
One of the other things too, for you, Casey, and for anybody else who that you work with personally and stuff that does the running and is starting to do strength training, when you're thinking about doing your squats, when you're running, and it doesn't matter if you're trail running or road running or gravel running or whatever, you're putting a lot of compression on your back all the time. You're constantly putting compression on the back. You're putting compression through all sorts of joints. If you're going to be squatting, one of the squats I recommend, it's a far superior squat as far as I'm concerned for a runner, is to do a Zercher squat. Zercher,
spell that?
Zuecher, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got the gist of it, so I can.
It's a cradled squat. So you're cradling it in, so the hands are in front of the chest, and you're cradling it in the crook of where the bicep and forearm meet. You want to have a fatter bar or a pad on it, but it's staying close to the body. And so what you're doing in that squat is you're taking the compression off of your back that you're already putting on when you're doing your running. You're able to keep the body a little bit more upright when you're doing this squat. You're still getting massive amount of leg drive. You're still getting really good eccentric piece. But now what you're doing is you're loading up your front end and you're loading up your core, which are 2 really huge areas that are in neglect when it comes to runners. If you have a strong core and you have a strong upper body, your posture is going to be 1,000 times better. Your fatigue rate is going to drop drastically because you're able to keep your body more upright, because that upper body, the middle of the body, in the sense of the thoracic area of the back and everything wrapping around the ribs, and then the whole entire core, the abdominal area that wraps all the way around the backside. When those areas are strong, you can keep a posture much, much better. So the fatigue rate goes down a lot faster as well, too.
So how would you weight that for, say, I'm just doing regular back squats, we'll say 195 pounds. How would the weight vary?
Well, first off, the way I would start out anybody would be, if you've never done one before, do one with an empty bar. Do yourself about five reps, put it back on the rack, walk around for a second, grab it again, do another round of an empty bar, and then do something very basic of a warm-up weight. I would say maybe 40 to 50% of what you would normally do as a warm-up. Just throw that on the bar so you get a feel for it. So anytime you ever start out something new, start out slow, really, really slow. Learn the movement, learn how your body is going to react to it. Don't worry about any weight. You have plenty of time to worry about the weight getting on there. Technique is way more important than anything else. So let your body learn how to do the movement, let your body feel comfortable doing the movement, slowly start adding the weight on, and you'll get a feel really quickly at that point in time of where you really need to start in comparison to doing a normal back squat.
Yeah, always good advice. I mean, that's pretty much what I was doing last year. Is I started out, I just tried to gradually build. Took a couple weeks off. What do you call them? The weeks, the down weeks. What's the term in the weightlifting?
A deload week. Yeah.
The deload week. Yep. You taught me that. You didn't teach me the name very well, Mike, but you taught me what it is.
Yeah. Everybody likes the deload week.
Deload weeks are fun. I don't have to do as much. All right, so that's good. I'll put that onto my list for sure here. Now, one thing I know a lot of runners have, especially trail runners, have an issue with is their quads. When we run downhill, it puts a lot of impact on a quad. A lot of force gets driven through the quad up through. So what kind of workouts do you have for us as far as maybe quads and hamstrings go? I know you've tortured me with a number of hamstring workouts over the years.
First off, you want to build your quads up. Start pulling a sled backwards. That will help out drastically. I did that a lot as well too. I had a warm up that I was doing where I was doing 10 rounds of I pull the sled backward with weight, do 10 push-ups, pull the sled backwards, do 10 pull-ups, pull the sled backwards, back and forth, back and forth. And all it was to build the quads up because I knew I was going to go up and down, up and down, up and down a lot of hills and everything. So pulling the sleds is the big thing. Bulgarian split squat. Great one to build up your quads. Great one to build up your glutes.
Can you explain that one for maybe us that haven't done one of those? And
you're going to need something like a bench, a chair of some sort that you can put your foot on. Basically, the shoelaces part of your foot is going to go on that, and you're going to basically step out away from that about with your other foot, probably about a good, depending upon your size, about 3 feet away. And you're going to kneel down basically with the leg that's on the bench or on the chair. You're going to kneel down by driving that knee down and back towards the bench and then driving back up with the leg that's pushing through the ground. So you're kind of, you're on one leg's on the ground pushing through, one leg's on the bench as a balancing point, and you're basically doing a kneeling squat.
That's something we need to add, Rob, I think. I was missing that.
I think I need to try it tonight. I purposely put off my workout.
You absolutely hated those, man.
Yeah. And I have good balance too, which is surprising. Like I don't know. It puts a lot of pressure, I guess, on my knee.
You're probably not out quite far enough. Your front foot's probably not quite far enough out. And then the other thing too is don't add any weight to that. Go nice and slow and get nice and low with it, but nice and slow. Let it sit there for a little bit. Typically, when you're talking about your knee hurting and stuff along those lines, don't forget we have these insertion points where tendon goes into bone, tendon goes into muscle. All right. And it's the hardest point for us to get any kind of blood flow going through there. It's the place where everything kind of gets trapped. It's the place where all the soreness is. It's the place where all the abuse gets taken over and taken on all the time. So that full range of motion that you want to get that's purely body weight, where you can kind of get down and just really open that up. It's not about necessarily stretching the muscle as far as I'm concerned. It's more about how can I open up that insertion point area so I can get blood flow going in there so it feels better when I'm squatting over time, when I'm doing the Bulgarian split squat. That's what it is. You got to open those areas up.
Yeah. And for me, I think it was just the pressure. I probably was and still do them wrong. That would probably not surprise you, to say the least. But I have read, about them. I should have better form, but I'm gonna add those back in. I've got a bench here in my office, so it's perfect. I got to start. That's one thing, and I should take my own advice, but I need to start off by not doing it with weight for a while and do a lot more body weight stuff without weights till I get the proper form down, and I think I can add a lot more, especially with something like the Bulgarian
I
split
think
squat.
people forget, one of the things that people forget about body weight work is it's extremely restorative. It is probably one of the most restorative kinds of resistance work that you can do. And the reason why I say resistance is I'm 208 pounds. So if I do a full squat, I'm trying to push 208 pounds back up off the ground. I'm still doing a resistance training. If I'm doing a push-up, I'm not pushing a full 208 pounds, but I'm pushing like a fulcrum. I'm pushing a lot of that weight still through my chest, through my shoulders and everything. So your body is still weight that you are moving around. And then you go and do, like I said, a Bulgarian split squat. You're moving your whole entire body basically on one leg. So you're still doing resistance training. Doesn't necessarily have to be weight in hand to do resistance training.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that because I think that's another common misconception, right? That body weight exercises are not enough. A lot of people think they have to swing heavy weights around to get a good workout.
If somebody's fairly brand new, maybe they've been in a gym before, but they haven't been in a gym for 2 or 3 years. Their body may remember what a gym's like, but they just haven't been in a gym for 2 or 3 years. They're going to be on my body weight workout board for 4 to 6 weeks before I start letting them do any kind of barbell work or anything that's relatively heavy. They really need to build a foundation up. And the best way of building a foundation up is through body weight workout. Now, are they going to still move a sled around? Are they still going to play with a sandbag and things along those lines during that body weight workout? Yeah, because that's a functional piece of equipment. But to do bench pressing, flies, do kettlebell swings, clean snatches, things along those lines, trying to get them to do pull-ups right away. No, they're not going to do any of that kind of stuff. We're going to keep it very basic so they can build that confidence that they need in them to actually, do what they need to do and be, get what they're looking to get out of it and stuff. So I always tell everybody when they come in, if you come into any gym, it doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter what gym you go to. If you come in and tell somebody, oh, I need to do this. I really, really need to do this. I'm going to say, okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we'll sign you up and everything. But I can tell you right now that the vast, vast majority, like at least 90% of them, they come in and say, I need to do this, last about 2 to 3 months. It's just the way it is. Because when you come in with a need that you need to do this, it has a negative connotation to it. Eventually it feels negative and everything. But if you come in and you say, I want to do this, this is something I really, really want to do. Somebody comes in and tells you, I really, really want to learn how to trail run. I really want to be part of it. That person's usually going to succeed because it's a want. What's really cool about the want piece, though, is 2 to 3 months later, it reverses and it's not a want anymore. Now it's a need, but now it's a positive need that they have that they don't want to not be without. So that's, if you want to make somebody successful at that, start where they're at. Start with body weight. Start with the basic thing that gives them success to build on. So it always stays a want so it can turn to a need.
Thanks for taking what was going to be a negative question of mine and turning it into a positive there, Mike. Because I was going to say, why do people fail at the gym? You were one step ahead of me and talked about why the people are most successful. Because that's one thing I would like for people to get out of this the most, I think, is how to consistently do this. Because if you can consistently do this over a long period of time, the results that you get from all the running that you do, you're going to see those results go up as well. Yeah. I feel. So that's why it's important to me. Like, and I should have asked it in a positive manner. That's my fault. But yeah, like, why do people fail? What stops them from doing this? And I've never heard it explained it like that, where they need to do something. Like it's, I guess it's kind of like, when you're a kid, your mom needs you to, do this chore, that chore. You didn't.
Exactly.
You just, you needed to. And, so that's Great
Yeah,
explanation.
it's I've always kind of felt that way. That the mind has to want something, and for you to succeed at it. There's plenty of times in history that in my own life, that there's so many things I needed to do, and I did it, but did it come out great? Was it my best work? Did it pass? Yeah, but is that what you want? No, you don't want that. And so when you think about also things that to get people motivated, or not motivation, because motivation is fleeting. It's very, very, very fleeting. You can get motivated by just watching something and wake up the next morning and you're like, well, where'd that go? And it just went away and stuff. But what I always tell everybody, especially somebody, because of the different things that I like to do, I know that if I could just train mediocre and I could go out and run a Spartan race, or I could go out and hike and everything, and I'd still have a fun time, still be nice and everything and stuff. But if I really train to do it, the enjoyment level of what I'm going to experience is exponentially higher. The gratitude that I'm going to get from it, the experience that I'm receiving from it. If I'm with a group of people, like I have 14 people next Sunday going out and doing a Spartan race with me from the gym. That, and we've all trained really, really hard for this. And so that we're all going to go out and we're going to do something that's very, very difficult, and we're going to work hard at it. But at the same time, the reward and the feelings that we're going to get with each other are just, you can't buy that. You can't create that. You can't think that. You have to do that. And that's the thing. That's the thing, is if you just do that, it just feels amazing. And that's one of the things I try to drive with everybody is think about that. Because if you can think about that and keep that in your forefront, keep the pain. You know, the pain's going to be there when you're doing it. You know, the pain's going to be there when you're working out. You know, the pain's going to be there when you're running. But if you put that back here in the back of your head and you think about all the killer ass things that are happening in the front of your head, you'll succeed. It's amazing. And it'll make you want to keep on doing it more and more. You'll go to a finishing line and you're like, oh, cool. All right, where's the next starting line? And you'll just walk to the next starting line. And that's the cool thing about it, I think.
Wow. That's our next Instagram reel right there. I'm pumped up. Let's go.
We got it, Rob. We got the soundbite right there. Yeah, I agree with you, Mike. I mean, I sometimes I do have a little bit of lag after a longer race of wanting to sign up. You know, I've sworn off running like 4 or 5 times now forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I give myself 48 hours, you know, a few days sometimes, depending on the distance. But yeah, there is that feeling of accomplishment when you get across it and you've gotten through the pain. Because, I mean, Rob, we've been a lot of pain a lot of times now, right?
How quickly you forgot about that pain. Like how fast. I mean, there's things that I remember that I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. But it doesn't even compare to what you really, really remember when you were doing it. When you were doing it, it was a whole entire different level. But once the accomplishment is done, and you look back and you're like, fuck, that was badass. That pain just goes away for the most part. It really does. And then
Yeah.
you can sit there and swear it off. But then 2 months later, you're going, man, we got to do something really cool again like that, man. That was really, you know.
You hit the nail on the head. When we're done with a race and we're sitting back in the house, because we're typically, far away from our homes, renting an Airbnb, and everyone's hurting. I'd say within 24 hours, we're talking about the next one. Like, what's the next race we're doing? Which state you want to go to?
I mean, if you get me at the finish line, I'm like, no, this is a stupid sport. We're never participating in this again.
Yeah.
It takes 48 hours.
Yeah.
Or if 24 hours in.
Yeah, 6 beers, then we can get into the flow of what's next after about 6 beers. So certainly doesn't hurt. Certainly doesn't hurt.
Right on.
Yeah, we're getting a lot out of this, Mike. And I appreciate that, because it's one thing that I guess, well, we had another guest on, Jason Fitzgerald, host of the Strength Running podcast, and that was good. But I wanted to see a little bit different and especially from your point of view of, what makes someone successful at the gym. That was probably the best answer
Yeah.
I could have asked for. Shame you stole it from me, Mike. You didn't even let me ask the question. You answered it.
I'm very passionate about this stuff. It means a lot. From where I grew up at and everything, I just this type of stuff means a lot to me because I really feel like it helps change people's lives, and I've seen it numerous times in my gym, and it's just one of the coolest things in the world to watch, knowing that you're not necessarily doing it, you just got a hand in helping it happen, because they're the one actually doing it. They're the one putting the work in and stuff. You're just kind of helping them, cheering them along and coaching them along. But when you see that change happen, it is just, it's so cool to see that person feel better, feel happy, feel something inside themselves that they've been searching for, and that just brings them this just really cool sense of accomplishments and sense of self. It's pretty neat to see and watch happen.
Yeah, I know. I saw it with. Well, I'll mention her if it's not okay. We'll edit it out.
Yeah.
Julie. I saw her. I'll say there was maybe a year in between times of seeing her, and just the transformation of not only her physical self but just her personality self as well was night and day. Like I've actually never seen before a transformation like that in someone. Uh, myself personally, like you see him like Instagram or whatever, you never know what's real on Instagram, but just to witness it myself was pretty awesome to see. That's a
Yeah, it's awesome to have a front row seat, and I have not just Julie. I mean, she's an amazing example. She's an amazing person. Julie's one of my best friends. She's one of the coolest people I've ever met in my life, and love her to death. But there's a handful of people down there that have like made some serious changes in their life, and it's just been absolutely stunning to be a part of it and watch. And they're very, very close people to me. They mean the world to me, and I get to see like other people in the gym that are moving on from doing different things that they were in their sports life, and now they're taking on new different challenges and getting to help them make that transfer and that transformation and stuff, and still helping them keep that fire going to do something different, and not just that's a cool thing to watch as well too. So it's a lot of fun.
and she's not the only one. She was just the one that I thought would be most accepting to us mentioning it on the show. But I've seen numerous people throughout the community that I know have gone to your gym, and very similar transformation, whether it's strength, weight loss.
That's my favorite thing, because the strength and stuff is, that's just, if you're going to lift and come to the gym and put some effort into it, you're going to get strong. There's no getting around it. You're going to get strong and everything. But what can it do for you? How can it transcend down to the rest of what you have going on your daily life, on your relationships, on how you go to work, how you look at yourself, how you buy food, how you do all these different things. That's the big thing that really changed. And I'm sure you guys have seen that when people have joined in on your groups. You've seen that transformation of like, wow, they're bit, they got it. It's cool. And it's neat to see, things like that happen for people. And that awakening, I guess, is a good way you could put it. It's just a really cool experience to be around and be a part of it.
It's such a special raw emotion because so much of life is just numb. I mean, there's plenty of amazing things in life, but you're going to work, you're kind of doing your routine day after day. And when you go out and you just hurt and do something hard,
Oh
you
yeah.
just feel something totally different that you can't get from anything else. So it's a wonderful thing when you watch somebody go through that for the first time.
I when I see somebody go through the gym for the first time, and you can see, and I can usually tell within the first two visits whether this is going to work or not. And there's a look on somebody's face that is just, they're beat down, but they have this look that's of determination. It's not just like, it's not fake determination. It's just like, it's a very subtle, this is not going to beat me determination. And it's like, when I see that happen, I'm like, there we go. Now you got your on switch on. Let's go. Let's put the gas pedal down and let's start pushing this and let's go have some fun. Let's make you feel good and stuff. And so that's the cool shit. Yeah, embrace the suck. Yeah, embrace the suck. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Lean into those different things. I think that, I was talking on one of my Instagram things, and I just heard this I do a meditation practice every morning and a Wim Hof breathing practice every morning as part of my morning ritual stuff that I do. And I had a crazy morning, just all sorts of BS going on. And I was just like not in the best of mood. And so I was listening to something on Sam Harris, and he was talking about being in a bad mood, talking about it with one of his friends. And his friend looked at him and said, did you think that like all your problems were just going to go away and you just wake up and not have any more problems because you can, wish or not wish or work your problems away or anything? And it just dawned on me. It's like, it's just life. I'm just dealing with some problems and stuff. And so you just have to face those things and realize that life's going to bring you problems every day. We're doing nothing but problem solving for the most part. And if you can embrace those problem solving things, on the other side of that is peace and freedom. And just go after that. Just keep on pushing through.
Well said. Well, Mike, I thank you again for your time. We about an hour, and we found is our audience's attention span is about 1 hour. So after an hour, the stop button starts to get hit because most people run for an hour a day. So we feel like that's like the prime time.
Yeah, I'm a huge Andrew Huberman fan, and they're like 3-hour long podcasts, but I'm good for 45 minutes until I turn them off and have to go do something else. And I'll go back to it. But yeah, that's about the attention span.
Yeah, for him, I'll listen to an hour.
If you did anything, if you, I guess, study about the brain or anything, the attention span of the brain where to actually take information in is only good from anywhere from 35 minutes to 45 minutes. Anything after that, the remembering of what you did degrades drastically. Anything after like 15 minutes or up to an hour, that 15-minute window that goes down. Anything after that, it really goes down. So we're really only good for about 35 to 45 minutes anyhow. So that would make sense.
So yeah, thanks again so much for doing this. And I certainly appreciate it. I know we at the Akron Rugby Club always thank you. And I thank you for all that you've done for the club over the years. So
it's my pleasure. I have so much fun. I have learned so much from you guys and have had so many cool experiences. One of the best sporting experiences I've ever seen in my life happened on that rugby field, and it ranks in my top 3. And it just happened on your rugby field. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So I thank you guys as well too.
Yeah, I can't wait to have a future beer and hear all the Casey stories from the coach. I think that'd be pretty funny. But thanks again, Mike. Where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, if they just go to Big Tree Fitness on Facebook or Big Tree Fitness on Instagram, and then you just go to bigtreefitness.com as my website. We're going to be updating my website here soon. I haven't really touched it in a couple of years, but yeah, they can find most of my stuff at my website. But if you really want to see what we're doing and kind of like what we're about, go to our Instagram account and check out our videos on our Instagram account and stuff, because I try to keep it really very real on what we're doing in the gym, and get to see like how we're having fun. And there's no yelling. There's no egos. Everybody leaves their egos at the door at this place. There's no room for that. All right, Casey. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate it too. Much appreciated, guys. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Hobby Jogger. We hope you've enjoyed our conversation today. And if you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support keeps us moving forward. Until next time, keep those feet moving and enjoy the miles.